There it is. All right, starting the timer, and we're live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the F-Stop Lounge podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Newland, and I don't have a co-host with me here, but I do have a guest who's a regular, Mr. Leigh Diprose. Good evening, Leigh. How are you down there in the Down Under?
I'm bloody fantastic, mate. It's a nice warm day down here, down under in Australia. I'm in Melbourne, and how's the US treating you?
It's a little chilly, a little cool, about 50 degrees-ish Fahrenheit. I don't have any idea what that means to you in Celsius.
No, that's
Uh,
some weird number.
yes, and so if you are familiar with the podcast, then you know that we interview guests and pick their brains on the type of photography and business that they run, and then we get their background story. So we figured since we aren't exactly well-known figures, Lee is a little more well-known than I am, that we do our little self-interviews here at the beginning of the podcast, and you'd never have to hear them again. We'll get them out of the way.
Yay!
And so we're going to go over Lee. Lee is our guest this week. And Lee, would you like to go over how we met, maybe?
Wow. Well, I kind of stalked you. I'm on F-Stop Lounge. I'm a co-founder on F-Stop Lounge, and I was like, I needed to break into YouTube. So I was like, oh, who can I get along that can help me bring YouTube to the world? Bring photography to the world. So I googled photography videos on YouTube, and you came up, and it was your digital SLR basics tutorial course, I think, on the exposure triangle, and it was hilarious. I couldn't stop laughing. I'm like, I need to get in touch with this guy. So I ended up, I think, creating some really dark video in the middle of the night, going with no lights on or anything. I'm like, come and join me, and that's how
Yeah.
it pretty much went, right?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. I mean, which is surprising that I showed up on Google since I had only had that video up for like a month. I just decided to test the YouTube waters, and it paid off quite well because apparently YouTube is exposure heaven if you have any common sense when it comes to anything. But
Yeah, that's
that is
right.
pretty accurate. The dungeon video lured me into your dark layer of F-Stop Lounge. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and there's a few other YouTubers as well, but I did write some text with that because I thought the video was a little bit iffy.
But now we have nice lighting, and you're out of the dungeon. Yeah, I don't.
That's right.
Actually, that's the same room, isn't it?
It is the same room, but the difference is I've got two computer screens on to project some light. I actually need to get a proper light though, proper light source, proper
No,
mask.
it's good. This is mostly audio anyway, but I guess the sun helps for YouTube. So yeah, and the rest is history. We've known each other what, maybe 6 months? Not very long, but
Yeah, and you've even come across to Australia and visited,
yeah,
which is
I
incredible.
I ran
Sure.
across the ocean and joined you, and that was a blast. I've never become closer with a human being over 6 months. No,
Mm,
so that was pretty impressive that we hit it off that well. So
it
our
was.
show topic, since you are a man of the gear, is going to be photography gear.
Right.
So full disclosure, you work at for Fujifilm,
Correct.
and
Yes.
so I figured gear would be a good topic for you to run over at the beginning of our show here.
Right.
So
Okay.
I think we should talk about what matters exactly, what you shoot or what you shoot. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. This question comes up a lot in my conversations I have with photographers, especially online. They like see my photos, and they do a little bit of research on me, see that I'm on F-Stop Lounge, and then they'll come across my LinkedIn profile and go, "Hey, this guy works for Fujifilm," and I'm like, yes. What gear do I use? Well, I've I've come from an array of gear. So my previous background before Fujifilm was as working in camera stores. So I used to use every camera under the sun. I mainly was a Canon man all the way through my sort of teen years, and through weddings and things, the 1D Mark IV, 1D Mark III, and L series primes, and 85mm 1.2 was my favorite lens. And then, branched out into using some Olympus and Nikon and the rest of it. But I still tend to use those things because I'm sort of got the connections in from other suppliers where they're happy to lend gear for testing and stuff. But I just recently made the announcement that I'm going to the XT1, which is the commercial, for all my commercial work. And I'm going to that camera purely because of the signal to noise ratio is just insane. It's hardly any noise at ISO 800, handheld. So does that answer your question?
That answers half of my question. The half of what you shoot, but the other half of what you shoot. What about that?
Okay.
What do you like shooting with your XT1?
So I've only just picked up my XT1 today, which is this one here. I love it. Ooh. With the 56mm 1.2. And I haven't had the opportunity to go out and photograph with it yet because I'm doing this podcast and it's nighttime. But what I photograph is, I suppose my paid sort of work is weddings. It's not something I advertise, it's just sort of word of mouth. Because I work full time, I only take on 12 weddings a year. And most of them, pretty much 100% of them, are all in Western Australia. And I do some overseas ones. I've got, I think my next wedding's in Fiji, which is going to be very exciting.
Hey.
Destination wedding.
Yeah.
And my passion is wildlife and birds. I love shooting wildlife, and now that Fuji's got this XT1 at 8 frames per second, it's going to fulfill my needs. So,
yeah, and you've done a little traveling for wildlife. You've been to Africa, is that right?
Yeah, I've been to Africa twice. Thoroughly enjoyed both times. Went to the Drakensberg and did the tourist trap, Kruger National Park, and pretty much just did a self-drive for 2 weeks and on sort of both trips, and I've got some incredible shots that I was, if you haven't been to Africa, you really need to go. And you haven't been to Australia, you need to go as well.
That's very true. I guess Africa should be my next stop.
Yeah. And landscapes is the other thing that I enjoy. I never actually enjoyed landscapes, Andrew. I used to hate going out and photographing the ocean and the dunes and the trees, until actually one of my bosses, my old boss at one of the camera stores, he was like, made it into a camping trip, and I just thoroughly enjoyed the camping trip, and the photography was the second thing, and then he was like, taught me about using a tripod, for landscape photography, and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. This changes the whole thing.
Exactly, it really does. Walking around with that tripod, I love that. It's my third crutch. I use it to climb mountains and such. We need to schedule a camping trip up here in the States when you come visit.
Yes, definitely. I would like to go to Utah. Utah?
I'm going there in a couple months.
Nice, very nice. We should do a workshop over there for anyone interested.
Let's do it.
Yes,
right.
sounds
I'll
good.
Next it right now. So, we talked a little bit about brands. You said you've switched around a lot, and you've been fortunate enough, it seems, to be able to test out a lot of different gear. So,
yes.
Why use one brand over a different brand? Is there any, or is one brand just superior? I mean, it seems to me that they all kind of have their strengths and weaknesses.
That's exactly right. And, everyone talks about gear like it's the best thing, and you need to have this gear and this gear lust and gas gear acquisition syndrome. And, what it comes down to is just the camera that you've got. The best camera is the camera you've got. And you'll hear that saying all over the web. And every photographer should be saying that, because it doesn't matter what camera you've got, whether it's a $60,000 medium format or a $100 compact. They're still going to take a photo and capture the memory. It's just the difference in the technical side. So I'll give you an example. I used to use the 1D series in Canon purely for that, high frame rate, so I could get my wildlife shots. Whereas I used the Nikon for a lot of sort of portraiture work because I really like the skin tones. And I just found some of their lenses a little bit sharper. Whereas the Fuji I use for low light because I find the ISO is incredible. It's 51,200 now. It's insane. Yeah. Does that answer it?
Yes, indeed. I always
Good.
it surprises me that we're friends just because you're a Canon guy. You know, I usually don't make friends with the Canon guys.
That's right.
But
That's right. You know.
but we share a passion for Fuji. Even though I don't own any, I got to use those over in Australia, and I had a tear when I left. It was a sad day.
It was. I had to actually pry them from your hands. You know, I had to fight the security guards at the border patrol.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they wouldn't let you out. So
I don't want to think about it. But you talked about one of the reasons that I use Nikon is for the glass. Now, in my opinion, glass dominates. Glass is more important than anything. Do you share that opinion, and do you have any reasons why that is?
Yeah. So glass for me is a must. I'm a huge believer of prime lenses over sort of telephoto lenses. A lot of sort of portrait photographers are, purely for the fact that it's letting in the most amount of light. There's no light fall off as you zoom. Well, there's no zoom. So, yeah, that's for me the biggest thing. Having a prime lens. So the main sort of lenses I used were when I was shooting Canon was the 85mm 1.2. That was my favorite. And now on the Fuji, it is the 56mm f1.2, which is pretty much equivalent to the Canon. And what I've noticed is it's a little bit faster to focus, which is a good thing. Yeah.
I'm so jealous. I want that. I just want that set up in my hands.
For those that are listening, we're actually recording this on a video, so you can actually see the camera.
Yeah. We should.
Yeah.
I'm the host. I should be the one that remembers to do that. Good job, though.
Yeah, no worries.
For those of you who haven't listened to any other episodes, Leigh is usually the co-host. So we each have that host side of us. So
that's right.
yeah, one of the things that took me to Nikon whenever I was choosing my very first camera, whenever I did my research, was the lenses, and because they seem to have, the best lens selection, and I know that they make military grade optics and stuff, binoculars and telescopes and stuff like that. So I strictly went with Nikon just for their lens selection. And I saw an article on Petapixel the other day that Canon just came out with a camera that has a Nikon mount.
Yeah, it's an F mount. What's with
that? So I was like, yep. That settles it. I was right. That's why I did it. So
yeah, Canon turning Nikon.
Yes. Now, one thing that people often do is they really get caught up in gear. While gear is good, that kind of distracts them from what's important, and that's getting the shot. So let's talk a little bit about how you make up your mind and get out there and either go out with the intent of shooting something or finding something to shoot while you're out and about. So what works best for you? Do you go out and think of what you want to shoot beforehand, or do you kind of let the subjects come to you?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, actually. I wake up, or it's the night before, and I get really inspired. I see an image in my mind, and I really want that image, and I want to try and pursue it and capture it. It's normally a bird, so normally wildlife, but or it's a scene that I've seen from whether it be another photographer friend or I've seen online. I just thought, oh wow, that would be a nice location to shoot in. I'll shoot it one day. So I have this preconception in my mind of what I want. So I actually pack my gear for that. But I do take an extra lens, like a wide angle I will pack, just in case there is something spectacular in the sky at the sunset. I'll pack a sort of a prime around sort of the 85mm or a 50mm, and then I'll pack my telephoto as well. So something like a 300mm.
Yeah.
And if I need sort of something further, I'll just walk there.
Yes, that's good. I wanted to kind of jump in and bring that up because a lot of people get really caught up in gear and they don't understand that that's not what's important, So although we're talking about gear, I really wanted to hit that point for a second in the middle of our gear talk, because I see a lot of new photographers out there that think they can't get the shot unless they've got the right gear. But about the right gear, how would a photographer find what gear is best for them when starting out? What do you think? How should they choose Canon, Nikon, Fuji,
How
Sony?
should they choose the gear? Wow.
Yeah,
Well, they should definitely do their own research. That's the most important thing. And at the end of the day, the decision is yours to make because it's your
yeah,
money that you're spending. Consider secondhand, but just be wary of the gear because some photographers abuse their gear, especially pro photographers.
yeah,
So if you want to some really good research, go to a non-biased website like DP Review or Petapixel, or even go to a forum. But just be aware that there's going to be lots of opinions, like you should use Canon, you should use Nikon.
yeah,
But at the end of the day, the best thing is to actually get out there with some gear, whether it be renting the gear, using it in store, or using a friend's, and actually seeing what the image quality is like, and if you're happy with it. And if that's
yeah.
going to satisfy you, then go and get it.
Absolutely. Getting hung up and getting bogged down with that choice and not getting out there to shoot is just so sad to see. But so many people do it. Yeah,
Yeah,
you said
yeah.
buying used. I buy used a lot. I tend to buy my camera bodies new. I think I've bought one used. But the camera bodies I tend to buy new just because those tend to have more problems. But lenses I usually always buy used just because if it's been well taken care of, I'll never buy from a professional, as in like a professional wedding or sports photographer, because they use it, man. They use it, and you can tell
And
by
abuse
looking.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I usually try to find the wealthy housewives who their husband just bought them the newest $2,500 lens, and then now they're not interested in it, and so.
And they're happy
I,
to give it to you for $200, right?
Yeah, no kidding. I just got the Nikon 70-200 VR2, which is a $2,500 lens for $900 from that exact.
Ooh.
That
You didn't
ex
even have to sell a kidney. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'd consider turning around and reselling it just because I got it for such a steal.
What, your kidney or your... No.
So once, let's see, this is gonna have the same type of answer that the choice is up to you. But so whenever you choose your brand, Nikon, Canon, Fuji, or whatever, let's talk about what's going to determine how you fill your bag. What kind of lens you're going to buy first, if you're going to go with the flash first, if you're going to go with a wide angle, if you're going to go with, what should people think about whenever they start to fill their bag up with gear?
All right, first thing, you need to decide what type of photographer you are. Are you wanting to do this as a profession, or are you wanting to do this as a sort of amateur hobby thing? Because that will define what gear you're going to buy. And let me sort of explain a little bit more. If you're going out as an amateur, okay, and you enjoy being outdoors, hiking, you're gonna see some beautiful landscapes. You don't want to go and buy, a telephoto lens or a some weird
Tilt shift
weird
or
lens.
something.
Yeah, I mean you can buy a tilt shift, wide angle for landscapes, but the thing that you want is a nice wide angle, an ultra wide. So let's just talk about sort of entry-level Canons here. You'd probably get a 10 to 22 EFS lens, f3.5 to 5.6, and that would cover your range. However, if you turn the other side of the coin, if you're wanting to do, this is a profession and you're into real estate because your family's into real estate, or you just like houses and architecture, then you might want a better grade lens and better glass. So that's when you'd go to your 14 to 24 in the Nikon, or you go to your tilt shift so you can get your lines straight when you take the photo. So it really comes down to what you want to do with what you want to do with your career, basically.
Yeah.
Or your hobby, which will decide what lens or camera you buy.
Yeah, and I see a lot of people will invest in a lens and then they don't use it to the full potential. So they could get say they get a 105 macro lens and they think they can only use that for macro when you could really, that's a good portrait lens. You could use that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. And so do you have any tips on finding ways to use your lenses and gear to its full potential? Because you don't necessarily need to go out and buy specific lenses if what you got.
Yeah, just on that note, Andrew, don't make the mistake. I hear so many photographers that they're starting out and they see their professional, you know, idols online taking all these fantastic images, and they've got expensive gear, like, they paid like $20,000 for their whole kit. So don't be in the mindset where you think, oh, to take photos like that, I need to spend that amount of money. That's so not true. Don't go and buy all that sort of gear. Work yourself up, because 9 times out of 10, that professional photographer or your idol photographer would have done the same. They would have worked themselves up from one body to an upgraded body and so forth as their photography level increases. So, just be mindful of that.
Exactly. I've got a D3, which it's a few generations old, but it's still much more expensive than my D7000 and a much better quality camera. But I prefer to use my D7000 and a Tokina lens, which is much cheaper than some of the other lenses I have, for my landscape work, just because I like the outcome of it on that crop body. I don't know, there's something about that combination that I just like. So, it's not necessarily the gear. I just want to pound that home, because you are so right that people really get caught up in, if I want to take an image like that, I need that same gear, and that is not true at all. There's almost anything out there nowadays is really amazing, and you can get
sorry, go on. I was going to say there's some really sort of incredible technology which is going to assist in how your idol photographers go out and take photos. So Google Glass is one of the things.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see how you do your HDR sort of stuff, Andrew. When you get your Google Glass, I'm going to be on there live watching how you do it. That's going to be awesome.
I need to get on the Arcanum, man.
yeah, that's right.
So
Trey Ratcliffe,
yeah, that would be awesome. But I almost got some, but I invested in this MacBook anyway. So another thing that people have a bad habit of doing that I want to kind of give some good advice on is taking care of their gear. I see a lot of people, whether they pay for it themselves or they put it on credit or something. It doesn't matter if it's a cheap lens, an expensive lens. If you want to be able to resell it and get your value out of it, I think you should really you should be taking care of that gear while you're out shooting with it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And do you know what I'm going to do is actually go to the Zeiss website. I'm just going to load it up now, but while that loads, taking care of your gear is essential. I mean, this is an investment that it's like a car. You want to maintain it, and it's exactly the same as your gear. So invest in a good sensor cleaner system, invest in some good lens cloths, and invest in a really good backpack. And I know, Andrew, that your backpack would probably be one of the better ones. What one is it again?
I have the F-Stop Loka bag that Verena Patel I inherited it from her. She passed it down to me, and I'll pass it down to one of my young Padawans in the future. That bag is insane. I love it. The one thing it doesn't have is a laptop. I don't have a place to put a laptop. I'll have to get the bigger version.
No.
But yeah, it is an investment. You're right. And so, did you pull something up there you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, so I just want to talk about lenses. Where is it? It is. So, how can fungus be removed? So, if you get fungus and you go to like a high humidity area, well, an area that has high humidity, I should say, like you go into a rainforest or you go into a desert or something like that, and then you quickly change environments, you can get sort of mold in the lens. So on the Zeiss website, there's some really good tips, and I'm just going to read it out. It says, how can you remove fungus? So clean affected surfaces with a cotton wiper that has been soaked with disinfectant. You can build up your cotton wiper, use a cotton wrapped around toothpick, such as that the ball forms a peak on the pointy end of the stick. Use pure cotton, no prepared or impregnated cotton. Impregnated cotton? Can you get that?
I'm not sure we have that. I don't know what that is exactly.
Yeah. And then basically you strongly rub the corroded optical surface with the optical cleaning cloth. And this is the interesting thing. This is why I came to this website, because they say cigarette ash can be used as a polishing aid. I read this and I'm like, what?
That's just an
Let me
April
read that
Fool's
again.
joke.
Yeah, so strongly rub slightly corroded optical surface with an optical cleaning cloth. Cigarette ash can be used as a polishing cloth, or a polishing aid, sorry. So if any smokers out there, just collect some of your ash and just polish up your lenses.
There's finally a good reason to be a smoker. I have yet to find one, but now you've convinced me to start smoking, so I appreciate it.
That's right. Yeah, so I thought I'd share that with you.
Yes, that is interesting. I'd never heard that. But, I mean, like we were saying, this is an investment. And so just like with your car, you take care of it so that you can resell it or trade it into your next car. Same thing applies with your lenses, correct? I mean, would you agree that reselling to fund your upgrades is a good idea?
Absolutely. Definitely. I've always sold my gear secondhand, and it's gone sort of within 2 weeks. And it's really important. And don't be the horrible person that goes, I paid $4,000 for this camera, I'm going to sell it for $3,900.
Yeah.
Really, as a sort of a way, I always say 50%.
Yes.
Or less.
Yeah.
Because you've had some fun out of it, you've taken some great photos, it's paid for itself.
Yep.
So it's now time to pass that on. And you find if you're selling at a right price, you're going to get a good price. It's just karma.
Yeah.
Lens karma.
That's exactly what it is. And I am, you have Craigslist there, don't you, in Australia?
We do. It's not so big, so Gumtree is probably the biggest thing.
Gumtree, interesting. Well, I'm kind of a Craigslist wheeler and dealer here, and I let those people know that are selling it for $3,900. I just because it drives me crazy, I'll send them links to like refurbished gear directly from Nikon for like $5,000 cheaper. I'm like, yo, nobody's gonna buy that. Get it off here. Nobody wants to see that. And
yeah, that's good. You're doing Craigslist a service there. That's really good, Andrew.
So that's one of my pet peeves. I'm glad you brought that up. But yeah, 50% is what I usually always put mine at, and then if there's any blemishes or anything with it, I go down from there. But that's always the rule of thumb for me. So yeah, I think we got some good insight for gear for our listeners, and now it is time to go into the life and story of Mr. Leigh Diprose. So every episode we go into the backstory and get to know our favorite photographers. Leigh is our favorite photographer of the week here. So Leigh, are you ready to start your story and tell us all about the life of Leigh?
Yeah. Okay. Where do I start?
So go ahead and start with the early years. When you first picked up a camera, maybe, and considered photography in the future, or just as a kid or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Well, as a kid, I was a very quiet person. I tended to observe everything. I'm an identical twin, and my brother was very outgoing and loud. He played the drums. So I used to go and sit outside and watch the birds and the clouds and things like that. So I was very, I suppose, what you call antisocial. But over the time, I thoroughly enjoyed video, and I remember being pulled out of my class in primary school to do a video course in, I think it was in Bateman Primary actually, and it was so much fun. We got to make all these videos on VHS, have this massive camera on our shoulder, and so from there I was hooked. And I started doing more sort of film and TV stuff. I moved to Sydney, quit school, moved to Sydney to study film and television. Then I got homesick when I was 16, living there by myself, so I decided that I'd move back to Perth, and that's when I got my first full-time job. Because in Sydney I used to work at a TV studio as well as like a mini lab, which was Smith's Photographics, and then I ended up moving back to Perth, and I worked for sort of a sister company, which was Kevron, which is Kodak Express, basically.
Yeah.
So I worked in the mini lab there, and ended up in management after a few years. And I managed probably three stores, I think it was, in the end, and worked at about 6, and thoroughly enjoyed that time. I enjoyed learning everything about film. So from, the loading of film, something that a lot of people don't know how to do these days. It's quite amazing to see a young kid's face and go, can you load this one? We're like, what is that? so that's always interesting. And also printing, and I printed. Oh, I don't want to think how many photos on all sort of Frontier systems and Kodak and Konica systems and stuff like that.
Wow.
And then I went into independent stores once Kodak went under in Australia. So they closed all their stores. And so the next day I applied for a job and got one at, worked at Camera Solutions in the city of Perth. Thoroughly enjoyed that. And that's where I really sort of got my head around digital SLRs, because Kodak really didn't have digital SLRs, and you know, I was selling Konica and Kodaks and Canons and Nikons and stuff, but yeah, nothing in that sort of high caliber market. So I thoroughly enjoyed that, and then I decided I'd go on a sea change, or a tree change, so to speak. I went down to Albany, where I worked at a Albany camera house, and I met Andrew Housel, who's a fantastic guy, great photographer. Must be something with the name Andrew. I don't know.
It's a good name.
It is a good name. And then from there, I got headhunted for a Fujifilm role as a area business manager in Perth, Western Australia. So I moved back up to Perth, and pretty much I knew a lot of people in the industry at that time, which is probably one of the reasons why I got the job. But and sort of my managerial skills sort of got progressed to that level, and I found myself running around the state of Western Australia, the large state it is, flying to different towns and things like that, visiting stores and talking about Fujifilm cameras and talking about labs, and yeah, it was great fun.
So for those who don't know, which I didn't until I was there, Australia is pretty freaking massive. So you made some treks. So you started out in Western Australia, and then you went to Eastern Australia, to Sydney, which is a very long ways. It's a very. And what age did you move out to Sydney?
So I was 16 at the time.
Wow.
And one of my friends actually quit school. She was a year younger than me, and she actually went and studied acting. And so I knew someone in Sydney, but I was still homesick. I was a little boy in a big city.
Oh yeah.
So I ended up moving back like the year after, and from there, you know, I just basically went into full-time work. So it was a really good experience, and I really grew a lot in that sort of experience. I sort of stopped looking at birds and clouds and started looking at dollars.
Yes, which is very important to survive in the world. But man, that's like grounds for some kind of journey song, like moving to Australia or Sydney whenever you're 16. I mean, nowadays people don't even move out of their parents' house till they're like 30. So that's
right. Yeah. And especially the house prices here in Australia. It's
my
crazy.
Gosh. Yeah, you're not kidding. I don't even.
I
don't even.
Don't even think about it. Don't even think about it.
So,
think about cameras and stuff.
Yes. So you talked a little bit about your primary education, which would be equivalent to high school in America, if I'm assuming correctly. But it sounds like, much like a lot of photographers, secondary or university education isn't as prominent among the photography community as you would think.
Yeah.
So did you take any secondary education at all for photography? Is it kind of street learned or business learned?
Yeah, so I did photography in school and managed to dux that, which was pretty cool. Top of the school, and I think there was about 500 kids in my year, so I was pretty happy with that. Went to quite a large school. Got rated the best school for the year that I didn't graduate, for the year 2000. So that tells you how old I am. So I was pretty stoked about that. Learning photography from a really, really great photography teacher who was just really down to earth. I remember actually, it was funny, he'd sort of give us an assignment. Mr. Nettleton was his name. He used to give us an assignment and say, all right, you need to show composition. So I'd go out with my little sort of Pentax film camera. I think at the time it was a MZ50, which was a fantastic little camera. It had the green smiley face for auto, but I shot in aperture priority. I used to go out and take these photos and take them back and go out and develop them, and in the dark room, and then we'd present them, cut the mats, and submit our work with a sort of a written story. And I remember arguing with him every time, saying, it's not your eye, it's my eye, and this is how I see composition. And I had to sort of explain the way I saw it. And he's like, oh, yeah, you're right, Lee. So you just like mic me up, which is good. So never, be, you always have to challenge what someone's saying in photography. And because it's your point of view, and it's like an artist, if you go up to an artist and say, you used the wrong brush stroke for painting those trees, and they're like, what drug are you on? We can say that with photography as well.
Yes, I need to get my wife to listen to this episode because I talked her into. She had one elective in her last semester of university or undergrad university, and I talked her into taking a photography class. And I was like, yeah, we can go shoot together. And the instructor is not doing any photographers any favors because he is very harsh and very judgmental, and I'm like, okay, well, you understand why you did this, and so you need to tell him why, maybe because he's not seeing it through your eyes. You need to be able to tell him how you saw the scene and why you did this and why you did that. So yeah, that is very important.
Can I give us some advice?
Yes, please do.
Okay, I would strongly recommend getting a Sherpa, a Velbon Sherpa Pro, which is a ultralight monopod, extending it out all the way and hitting her lecturer over the head with it.
Yeah.
That's the best advice I can give.
I got a big carbon fiber monopod. On the bottoms of them they have those spikes that twist out.
Ooh,
I carry that around. When I'm shooting like in sketchy areas late at night, I extend that thing out and I keep it visible like as a weapon with me at all times.
No one mess with me.
Exactly. So we kind of already touched on your first job. What about your family? You said you're an identical twin. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Were you raised in a house of photographers at all, or are you kind of the outcast there?
Yeah, I think my dad had a camera once, which used to be my grandpa's. I think I've got over here somewhere, up on the shelf here. But yeah, my mum was an artist, and I think I got all my sort of artsy vibes from my mum. She was very good at sort of oil colours and pastels and charcoal drawing and stuff like that. So I thoroughly enjoyed the creativity and exploring the creativity with crayons, as every kid did. And that, I think my photography sort of grew from that, just my imagination, because I'd see a picture and I'd want to go take it. And photography or video was the way to do it.
That medium that allows you to capture what you see creatively. Yeah, I'm the same way. I started out with drawing when I was little, and I think there's always that little creative flair in every photographer when they're young that kind of sparks up. And now that it's so easy to grab a digital camera and just go, that's just such a great medium to use.
Yeah.
So moving a little bit further, you talked a little. Oh, were you going to say something?
No, you're right. You're right.
So moving a little bit further, we talked about Fujifilm a little bit and how you got hired for Fujifilm, and kind of flew around and were teaching about the Fuji gear to different camera shops and whatnot. But a little something that we have in common that kind of sparked us along a little bit is that we were both laid off. And so, if you don't mind me sharing, Fujifilm canned you? What? Why would they do that?
Yes, they did. They did. You know what was even better? It was 2011, and it was November the 3rd, and I got a call into the office, and I remember getting the conversation, Lee, it's nothing to do with you, it's the company, it's a restructure. And what was so special about it was my birthday. So it was the best birthday present ever. No, most people would sort of turn around and revolt and just go, this is horrible, I'm never working for you again. But I had a lot of friends in the photographic industry, and they'd done so much for me over that time, and I really saw it as a great opportunity to, to stay within the industry if I wanted, or to move on to something else. So I'm sort of probably preempting your next question here. I decided that I'd leave, take the redundancy, and take some time off. And I took, I don't know how long it was. I took a while off, and I took some advice from a colleague who actually 2 weeks before my redundancy said, Lee, you should check out this social media thing. And I took up his advice. He referred me to Gary Vaynerchuk's Crush It. I read it. I downloaded the audiobook and listened to it a couple of times. I'm like, dude, this is awesome. Yeah. So I was like, straight onto it. And from there, that's when Google Hangouts was around, first launch, and I'm like, what's this button do? And I got freaked out, man. I was like, I'm putting myself online, and people are going to look at me and judge me, and I'm thinking, there's no way I want to do that. And I thought to myself, Leigh, don't be silly. You go out on the street and people do that. What's the difference with the online,
Yeah.
So for me, that was getting myself out of the social, the anti-socialism that I've always sort of been involved in, and meeting people. And I'll just quickly share a story. The first people that jumped on the Hangout was two people in the UK. The first one was Justin Hill. He's a well-known person on Google+, very sort of, he hangs out regularly on NBC and stuff like that. You'll see him regularly. And there's also Lord Parker, who was the second person. And I thank them so much, because without those guys and meeting those people, I wouldn't be here today. So,
wow.
And end story, yes.
Shout out. So, Fujifilm let you go. And you took your time off. You got into social media, and then you're obviously back there, and that kind of has something to do with social media, doesn't it? So
yes.
You want to talk about how they took you back?
Yeah. So the funny thing is, obviously photography was my passion, always was from day dot, and I was like, well, what can I talk about on social media? You've got to talk about something you're passionate about, and for me, it was clearly photography. And I talked about, when I used to work for Fujifilm, what cameras I'd use, and I used to share lots of photos. And then I'd write stories on my, experience and travels with Fujifilm. And Fuji sort of started seeing that. Obviously, I had friends there, and they'd see what I was up to on my personal blog, which I'd sort of run for 3 years. So that was really cool. And then, they started noticing that I sort of got a bit of a following and became a little bit influential online, blowing my own trumpet there, but I thoroughly enjoyed what I was doing, and they were in the stage where they should hire someone for their social media, and it came up that they needed. Well, in the end, I was actually managing a camera store in Fremantle, Western Australia, camera house there, and at the time, I decided that I'd move over to Sydney to find a job in wholesale again. And so I moved over to Sydney, sold all my stuff, packed up the car with what I could, 100 kilos of stuff, and pretty much jumped on a plane and got the car trucked over to Sydney and lived there for 6 weeks. And then I got a call from Fujifilm saying, hey Leigh, would you like a job? I'm like, that would be awesome. And I said, what do you think of Sydney? And I said, it's fantastic. And they said, Melbourne's better. Why don't you go to Melbourne? I'm like, okay. So I hopped in the car and drove to Melbourne, and now I'm here.
Wow. That is awesome.
Yeah, so my primary role here is an area business manager, or we're just having a restructure, so now it's probably going to be a key account manager. And I also do social media for them, so social media specialist, and yeah, I thoroughly enjoy it. It's fantastic.
And you're a great man for the job. You're a social media role model for me, I know.
Well, thank you, mate. Thank you. I'm always learning, and if anyone's got any tips, please hit me up.
That is the mindset to have. Never stop learning ever.
That's right.
So now to the side of your story where you went pro. So this may not be a specific time, it's different for everyone, but a lot of people have that moment in photography where they know that they are professional. So, the way it works nowadays, there's not just like okay, now I'm pro, because I mean, unless you get like a job for a big magazine or something and you didn't have a job before, that's understandable, but, a lot of us are out there just doing it ourselves. So was there a key moment that you started valuing your work and charging for it, and that moment you knew that you were good enough and you were going to be a professional? Do you remember that moment?
Yeah, so after I worked for that sort of independent in Perth, where I learned about digital SLRs. I ended up moving to Albany, and I ended up doing weddings in Albany. And I remember my first gig, it was about 7 years ago now, and I ended up charging a small fee to do this wedding. I thoroughly enjoyed weddings, and photographing was a real pleasure, and it still is today. I sort of always have a great team around me to assist what I do, and I charged this amount of money, and from there, word of mouth got through, and I ended up doing more and more weddings. And from that, and working in the camera store, I ended up, making some good money from it. But I had the opportunity as well to run some workshops, and for me, it was that point where I started actually teaching my knowledge to people that I really felt like a pro. So I taught a number of different classes at different workshops, a couple of weekend workshops, and with my old boss, and we had a great time. And even now, a lot of my Facebook friends went on the course, and they're like, "Leigh, when are you coming back to Albany to do another course?" So it's always good to hear that. This is 7 years later. Yeah.
And I'm not gonna let you off the hook. We're doing a workshop here, you and I.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
You're not getting out of that. So.
For sure.
So we'll set one of those up, because I really want to do a workshop. I love teaching, and giving my stuff away on YouTube is one thing, but a lot of people need that hand-to-hand, eye-to-eye learning experience in the field, and I feel that's the best way to learn. Even though you could go on and Google and YouTube anything and learn it for free, I mean, it's going to take one or two times of you watching it and a month of trial and error for you to get it. Whereas if you had somebody there with you, you can learn it right away and test it in the field.
All hands-on experience. That's right.
That is the best way to learn photography, in my opinion.
And you can find more of that on YouTube, newtography.com more than newland.com.
Yeah, look at you plugging me. This is about you. This isn't about me. Don't bring me into this. No. So next, I feel on the line of Leigh in the sequential order we're going would be F-Stop Lounge. Is that correct?
That would be. And through my social media, I met some wonderful people. I mentioned two names before. I obviously met you as well. But I met we call ourselves the Hangout regulars, because we'd hang out literally every day, every second day on Google Plus and just chat. It'd be like working in an office environment. Yeah. Someone would pop their head up and go, "Hey, what do you think about this image on Photoshop?" And does anyone know any techniques to edit this? And I'd share their screen. And then we'd all go back to work, and then someone else would pop up. It was really, really good fun. And from there, I met Andre Appel, and he is based in Germany. We've never met in person, but we both decided that we wanted to start a photography site separately, and we're like, "Hey, this is stupid. We hang out every day, literally. We talk to each other. Why don't we just start a site together?" So we got a lot of the Hangout regulars together, and we were like discussing names, and we're like, "Oh, what do you think of this?" And we actually discussed Dead Pixel, and I see Zach Arias is using that now. But it's really funny. But I think it was Andy Gray came up with, I think, the name F-Stop Lounge, or Lounge, if Andre was pronouncing it the first time. But yeah, we started F-Stop Lounge, and from there, a lot of the Hangout regulars started as contributors, and we've just seen it grow. And over time, some of them have had to move on to other different things due to time restraints. But we've brought some great contributors on board, and we're getting some great content out there. So I'm very, very pleased at how it's gone in just a year's time.
Yeah, that is awesome. I love the F-Stop Lounge. Even though I'm slacking majorly, I need to get on that. But I think we should do...
We're doing these podcasts. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I just need to get them up. Oh, I'm trying to build a website. It's a nightmare. We need to get them on that F-Stop Lounge soon, too. But I think we should do a cumulative follower, like add up everyone's followers on F-Stop Lounge and post that on the page.
It's actually, our circle count on Google Plus is over 2 million.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty big. So I think partly that is obviously Jay Patel.
I wasn't gonna bust the bubble, but I was like, that doesn't have anything to do with one person having 60% of that. Like,
Yeah. But as a collective,
yeah,
there's so much years of experience and knowledge there just waiting to be shared. So that's what we're really tapping into. And we try and post a story. We all have full-time jobs, and this is sort of a side project for all of us. But we try and post a story a day, sometimes every second day. But as we grow and we get more contributors and we've got more things planned in the works, there's going to be some very exciting times, and you'll see more content in the future.
it is a very exciting place, and I have so many ideas that I've jotted down and stories that I've saved that I have not been near a computer to try and write an article. But if those haven't been done yet, I'll see if I can get on that pretty soon. So, so what are the future plans for F-Stop Lounge? What do you got? What do you got in the brain there that you want to implement?
In the brain, well, there's some very exciting stuff coming. I have been in development with Andre and also another partner on a product that we haven't seen in the photography industry. It's something that's needed. I'm not going to go into the details of it. I'm just saying that the prototype is getting made somewhere in the world, and we will be launching that probably as a Kickstarter project or Indiegogo or something like that. So look out for that in the future. We've obviously got the podcast, which you're hosting, so thanks for that, Andrew. And we want to see sort of YouTube grow a little bit more, so that's going to develop over time. And we have some other exciting things which I'm not going to mention on a live hangout.
That's a good idea.
You just have to wait. I was thinking about it today. It's definitely a 5-year plan. So you'll see F-Stop Lounge a lot more in the future.
Yeah, which is good. The world needs more F-Stop Lounge.
That's right.
So, I don't know your life. Have I missed anything? Is there anything?
I was married. Does that help? Yeah, I was married.
If that's a topic you want to go into, then that's all you. This is your life story here.
Yeah, I probably should say on the record, I was married. Was married for nearly 8 years, but it was a mutual separation in the end. We decided it wasn't the right thing, but my ex-wife was a fabulous person, and she taught me a lot in photography as well. You're only good as your assistant as well. So to her, I thank her very much for where I am today.
Yes. See, that was one thing that whenever I came and visited you, that was like a mystery. It's like you were married, but you didn't say anything else about it. And so,
there's not a lot of online documented about that because she wasn't online. So some people were like, "You were married? I didn't read that anywhere."
Yeah, so I got all personal. I was like, all right, this may be too close. We just met 15 minutes ago, but what's the deal?
Hashtag bromance. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it is time for our outro, and with our usual outro. Oh, wait.
Before you go, sorry, you're probably just going to mention gear.
Yes.
What gear we'd recommend.
Yes, that is part of our outro.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. You're the host. Yes.
So as part of our normal outro, we do gear recommendations, and then our normal plugs where you can find us and stuff, and bid you farewell. So Leigh, who is a little overexcited for the gear recommendations, I'm guessing you have something pretty special for us this week, yeah?
It is. Well, I sent you a link earlier, but it's not actually that product that I'm talking about today. It is something else, and as I always like to describe, I'll describe the gear and then tell you the gear. So what it looks like is some swing set gone wrong. So if you mix a swing set and a spider, this is what this product is. Oh. Some people may be scared of it. Some people may want to swing a little bit more on it, but at the end, it's going to keep you stable in life because it is the Komodo Orbit. That's right. It is a product that has a camera centrally in a swing set design. And it is the world's first twin grip mechanical gimbal camera stabilization rig. Say that 10 times fast.
I can't even say it once. What does that mean?
So what does it mean? It was designed by the multi-award winner cinematographer Leonardo Rittell, Helmrich, and basically after sort of seeing stuff in the industry, he's decided to build this thing, and it's allowing filmmakers to basically film live, record, and as they get too tired by holding this camera, they can actually pass it on to someone else, and they won't notice any sort of movement from passing it on to the other person to take over the weight. Because this thing weighs 10 kilos. It's heavy. It's heavy. But it looks like a spider on steroids. It's seriously cool. So you can check out their site. I think they're all sold out at the moment. They're on back order for the next 12 days. But they will cost around about £1,000. So they're obviously coming out of the UK.
Yeah. That's interesting. I'm getting a picture in my head of like an underwater camera type deal that has the two handles on the side. Is that correct? But it has some kind of eight-legged craziness.
Yeah, if you think of sort of two A-frames on each side of a central floating camera, okay, and then from those two A-frames you've got a vertical bar which goes down to a horizontal bar which is obviously hanging the camera centrally. But what's really cool about it is that there's no sort of additional weights, motors, or batteries required for it. So what it allows your camera to do is move freely with the action, and you get unique sort of places that are impossible with large other stabilization systems. So you can really develop that wow factor to your finished production.
Yeah. I'm producing a television show right now with my company, and we have Steadicams and whatnot. I'm going to be interested in taking a look at that because I'm having a hard time picturing it, so I'm obviously going to have to go see it with my eyes. And for all of those audio listeners, we'll link to it in the show notes and description for this episode. But
it's KomodoRigs.com. Komodo Rigs. COMODORRGS. KomodoRigs.com.
Interesting. I'm gonna have to go look at that immediately. So as usual, for my gear recommendation, I never come prepared, but I have so much great things around me. And here,
actually,
you know what?
Can I jump in there, Andrew?
Do it.
I really want to know where you get your headset from, because I noticed that you've got logo side of your earmuff things. What the? For those people that can't see, it's a really nice sort of gloss black emblem on the side with a white sort of text design of NT.
Yeah, Newtography, yeah. So it also has the built-in mic. I wear this, and this mic is really good. So this might be a little embarrassing, but I'll go ahead and plug it. This is a gaming headset. I bought this for my Xbox.
Right, okay.
But the reason I bought it is because it has the standard 3.5mm jack. Most gaming headsets are proprietary, where they only plug into the select controllers. But this one came with a mixer that you plug in. I don't know if I can pull this thing over here.
So it's really good if you're shooting a Nikon digital SLR and shooting video or something like that. You can plug in this headset straight into the side of the camera without using an adapter. Cool.
Yes, and I use it. I use it for everything now because it has like 6 speakers in each ear, like subwoofers and tweeters and all this stuff. And you can custom brand them. So this is gonna ruin how cool these headsets are.
Hang on. It's really cool because you just said you can tweet from your ears. What?
Yeah. You can. So through this mixer, you can set up like the different response rates for each
straight to your Twitter account.
No. Tweeters,
what?
as in
right.
as in the speakers, the tiny speakers.
I'm kidding. I know, man. I know.
You got me. You got me good. So this is gonna ruin, because a lot of people ask me about this, and this is gonna ruin a lot of the surprise. But this is how you get the custom emblems on the side.
Oh my goodness! What did you just do for our listeners?
So I'm going to take my headset off so I won't be able to hear you. But if you can see that, there are 4 magnets. And there are 4 magnets on the inside of this plate. And so it just snaps on there. So you can go on the website. They're Astro, there's the box up there, Astro A40s, I believe. And I use them as headphones. I use them for cell phone calls because they have this mic that's built in. They have a mute thing built in on the switch, and I got these custom emblems, these newtography emblems made, and they're kind of a hot item. So yeah, I'll link to these. Awesome. They're kind of pricey. They were $250, but they're made for gaming. So they come with like all kinds of stuff for gaming. And if you are a gamer, you can literally hear someone like in all directions and just sense people's souls coming at you. I don't game as much as I used to, but they get a lot of use, and I love them. So thanks for the help on my gear recommendation there, Leigh.
Hey, that's all right. I've always wanted to know how you got NT on the side of your ears. So
yeah, a lot of people think I drew it, but no, I had them custom made. They were like $25 or something to have them just upload your logo and they send them to you.
Yeah, I think that's awesome.
So that's that. That is the end of this episode of F-Stop Lounge. Leigh Diprose, where can people find you?
Well, they can find me on various places. They can find me in Melbourne, in Western Australia. Well, in Western Australia. Melbourne in Victoria, Australia. If they're visiting the city, make sure you hit me up on Google+, and I'll be happy to catch up and meet and talk over a coffee and talk photography till your ears drop off. You can see me on Facebook. You can see me on Twitter. Which I'm using a lot more now. You can see me on email, but mainly on fstoplounge.com, where you'll see all my links to all my social media and the Fujifilm Australia blog.
See you on email. I like that one. That's
that is the biggest social network.
That's what I was about to say. I'm pretty sure every single person ever, like Facebook boasts billion subscribers, and I'm pretty sure literally when you're born you have an email address. So
that's right. Yeah,
can't beat email.
baby at justborn.com.
Yes, I'm gonna have to. Do I have you on Twitter? I'm gonna be embarrassed if I don't. I'm gonna have to look you up.
I think you do. But Andrew, where can people find you? Because ideally, you are the host of this show, and people want to follow all your F-Stop Lounge podcasts.
Yeah, so we'll have them on the F-Stop Lounge website, obviously. I will have them. Once this goes live, my newtography.com website will be back up and running. It's under construction at the moment. So newtography.com, NEWTOGRAPHY. I have my own personal blog, thenewland.com, and then the same deal applies. Email, you can find me on email. And then Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Instagram, all that good stuff. It's not too hard to find. If you go to the Newland or whatever, I've got all the links there. And I love social media as much as the next guy, and I'm learning how to use it properly. I'm not that good at the Twitters, but businesses, I feel, are really good at the Twitters right now, because every time I check in somewhere, it's like Hyatt Hotel welcomes you. Let me know, like, if you need anything at Andrew Newland. I'm like, what? What's happening?
They know where you are. It's like those maps when you walk into shopping centers. They're like, you are here. And like, how did they know I was here?
I want to switch those maps around. Like, take one from one side of the mall and put it on the other side.
That's perfect, man. That's perfect. Well, thanks very much for inviting me, Andrew. I thoroughly enjoyed being interviewed. I don't think I've been interviewed before, so
yes.
Thank you very much for taking the time.
Well, thanks for taking the time. You're the one with the busy schedule. You're the one with the busy schedule. So I'm glad we got to do this, and so we'll have a couple more episodes, and then we'll start throwing them up so we can get this podcast going and get people downloading it and whatnot. So it was a great interview. This is the real Who Is Leigh Diprose. We got to know the intimate, manly side of you, as well as the crayon-loving child side. So that was good.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you. I'll catch you next time.
Awesome. Take care, everyone. We need like an outro slogan. Like,
love you, bye.
Yeah, well, that one's not very good. We need, like, it is now time to eyepiece the viewfinder? What?
So now follow the light.
Something. Oh, well.
Follow the light and go to your email and find us, because we're in there.
That's all she wrote, everyone. Until next time, love you, bye. Cool.